one more question, and then you have other questions. Are there any disadvantages of arbitration?
The disadvantage is that you are not, if you want to...
I know I don't think it is for you, but I'm sorry.
Now, the disadvantage that I see is if you want to obtain what is called preemptive or preliminary measures or injunctions, you need to go to the court. So in that case, you're going to have like a split process. Let's say you're going to get a preemptive evidence process before you start the lawsuit. Or you're going to get a lien on the property of the other party, whatever. This cannot be done by the arbitration tribunal. So you need to go to the court. So in that case, you have one on one side, and that's time consuming and cost inefficient. So this is why I mentioned this for huge, like usually companies, but you're not going to need to file a lien on IBM. You file the arbitration, you win the case, and then you're going to get paid. You don't need to but that what I see is the disadvantage of the arbitration. Or not the disadvantage, but the lack of response to those kind of needs.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I think that it's a little bit out of scope of your presentation. I don't know if you would be able to respond, but we have some customers abroad that ask for liability insurance and liability insurance.
Yeah.
What are the legal complications that could arise from, if I mess up the translation, for a client? Could he sue me?
There's a basic rule that is a common sense. I mean, if you do something wrong, and that's wrongness, or whatever you say, make any consequence, you're going to be responsible. I don't see why are you going to reply with an answer. Why you will not be responsible.
Yeah, okay. So let me rephrase it. We don't have liability insurance in Brazil. We tried everywhere. There's no insurance company willing to provide a Brazilian company with this, what Americans call liability insurance.
For translator.
Yeah, for the kind of service that we provide. So how could we protect ourselves?
Terms and conditions, and you limit your liability in your terms and conditions.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyhow,
And you limit liability to the value of the contract.
say, but again, this, as I said before,
But it doesn't have any assets.
My partner does.
But even though you put this, I mean,
It's just a follow-on to this.
You follow and then I go.
Sure.
even though let me add one thing. Even though if you include this limitation provision, again you're going to depend on the size of the damage that because of your mistake. I mean, if the damage is kind of small in economic terms, maybe the limitation in court will accept it. Otherwise, it's difficult for me to believe that in court, because I'm repeating what I said at the beginning, huge damage because of a terms and condition usually it's not negotiated, and you send like your terms and the other company sign because what they wanted for you to start to do your job or your work. I'm not that sure if the court will accept as absolutely valid this limitation liability. I'm not trying to put you on risk or not to sleep you tight, but I always try to be honest and please.
I have
This work, then this work, and then yeah.
Yeah, I just have to follow on questions. I work for a medical device manufacturer, and it is very important to us that the translation agency have some kind of insurance, and more importantly that they're taking into consideration all these factors that a company like ours has to follow the rules and regulations for each country, the possibility of a recall, possibility of lawsuits, especially if there's some sort of injury or death. So these things are really relevant, and I think it's going to become more of an issue, especially with life sciences and medical device companies.
Do you have vendors in Latin America? Because it seems to be the case in Argentina and Brazil. We don't have, and it happened. We work with McDonald's, and it's a requirement.
Argentina now, the insurance companies now in Argentina are giving you an insurance.
We don't work directly with a company in Latin America. We work with companies that are in Latin America, but it's through a parent company that has this, like in another country.
No, I'm asking this because we have a specific client that requested, and it was a $5 million insurance. We tried everything. And at the end of the day, I said, listen, there's no such thing in Brazil. And they said, yeah, fine. I know it's not a life sciences company, which is completely different because there is the risk of injury and eventually death, as you said.
Yeah, and if you look at the example of Toyota in the U.S., that this is a major issue as far as a company just going out of business because of a recall. So that's a possibility too, and so something else to consider.
First.
Hello. I was interested in knowing the degree of involvement of a law firm in cases in which a EULA, or in the case of intellectual property, a patent, for example, when a patent needs to be translated from English to Spanish, how much the law firm gets involved in the investigation of filings of that patent before that patent can actually get translated. Or if the text needs to be revised, in the case of EULA, for example, how you interact with the translation company in charge of translation of that EULA or that patent.
I don't have personal experience in patent, law practice, so I cannot respond, to that question. I will say whatever, but instead of saying whatever, to be honest, I don't have experience personally in this such a specific, law practice. I don't know what's the process of the patent if you make a research. Sorry, but I don't know.
Well, a comment regarding also Fabiano's question about liability. It's also true in Europe that as soon as basically our insurance is here, that we may be liable before U.S. or Canadian courts, since basically tort law is applicable. The prices of the insurance policies are pretty skyrocketed. That's a given fact. But one way basically to bypass, to overcome the issue you may have, you may want to sign a contract through your mother company that to a customer in another country. That's what we do. And so we don't do it in Brazil. And basically, your mother company, for example, in other countries like in the US or in Europe, is liable where you can then sign an insurance. That's what we do, for example. So we don't have Brazil signing this contract. We have basically our mother company basically being liable before the customer. So that's one way of overcoming this hurdle.
Okay.
Coming.
Hi, my name is Silvia. I work for a U.S. company called VeriSign. And I'm a localization manager there. And for the longest time, we didn't translate product names. But our product names tend to be very long and descriptive. So if you look at the product name, you pretty much know what it does. And that's not very friendly, globally speaking. So we're starting to look at translating a lot of our product names, and for that we need clearance in the country. So my question is, do you have experience working with getting clearance for product names in Argentina, and how does that work? We're pretty new at that, and we haven't done many, so I'm just curious.
We in Argentina, we do not have that experience in getting clearance of this kind of legal problem that you mentioned. So it's not that I don't have practice.